It's a blockbuster Monday for the markets. Sensex hits a record high of 21,326 levels, up 330 points. Nifty also zooms, ends above 6,250 levels. Rupee opens 4-month high against the US dollar at 60.88, ends at 61.13. Department of Economic Affairs Secretary Arvind Mayram says rupee now at its real value. Congress retains power in Mizoram, gets absolute majority. Chief Minister Lalthan Havla registers win from both Sirchip and Rangturzo constituency. The state election results are out and it's 4-1 for the BJP against the Congress, while Delhi heads for a hung assembly. The state elections, touted as the semi-finals before the finals, were partly expected, partly unexpected. Hello and welcome on this electorally charged Monday evening. I am Sidhant Sibal. First, the top headlines and the top story of the day. It was a dream run for the markets today. Sensex ended at an all-time high of 21,326 levels, up 330 points. Nifty gained 104 points to end at 6,364 levels. But Nifty failed to close above that crucially important 6,357 levels that it gained in January 2008. But today's closing was the highest closing since November 3rd, 2013. However, the 50-share Nifty hit a lifetime high of 6,415 levels. Sustained capital inflows from foreign funds also boosted the market sentiment. Today's gain was market's third gain for the third day in a row. The market was range-bound in the early afternoon trade. Firmness was later recorded and it continued during the mid-afternoon trade. The market trimmed its gain in the late trade. The market sentiment was also boosted by data showing that foreign funds remained buyers of the Indian stocks on Friday, that is 6th December 2013. The market breadth indicating the overall health of the market was negative. Gainers on the chart were ICICI Bank, SSLT, L&T, Maruti Suzuki and ONGC, which gained by between 5 to 3%. And there were just 4 losers: Jindal Steel, Cipla, Tata Steel and Hindustan Unilever, which were down by between 6 to 1%. Let's hear what the analyst had to say about today's rally.
Today's results outcome of the 4 states which had assembly elections, they've all gone in favor of BJP, and it seems as of now that including Delhi, BJP will form government in all these 4 states.
On to the global market action. Both European and Asian stocks were up after better than expected data on Chinese exports added to optimism that the global economy is strengthening. European stocks reversed initial gains on speculations that upbeat US job data could lead to the US Federal Reserve reducing monetary stimulus for the US economy. Previously it was thought key benchmark indices in France and UK shared by between 0.11% to 0.3%. Germany's DAX rose 0.27%. Asian stocks rose after better than forecast growth in US jobs and Chinese exports boosted investor confidence. cut to the Federal Reserve stimulus won't derail the global economic recovery. Key benchmark indices in China, Taiwan, Indonesia, South Korea, Japan and Hong Kong rose by between 0.05% to 2.29%. Singapore Strait Time fell 0.02%. Fed's bond buying program has been a source of liquidity for most Asian and emerging markets this year. Onto the rupee ended 28 paise higher at 61.13 versus the US dollar, earlier extending its rising streak for the fourth straight day. The rupee appreciated by 51 paise to trade at nearly 4-month high of 60.90 against the dollar. The rupee had gained 34 paise to close at 5-week high of 61.41 against the dollar on Friday. The rupee had touched a lifetime low of 68.85 against the dollar in the last week of August after the US Federal Reserve started discussions on tapering its fiscal stimulus. A record current account deficit on back of high gold imports too was pressurizing the rupee value. The Indian rupee firming to 60.9 against the US dollar. The Economic Affairs Secretary on that note said that it has reached its real value, but he cautioned that there should be no exuberance. Extending its rising streak for the fourth straight day, the Indian rupee appreciated by 51 paise to trade at nearly 4-month high of 60.90 against the US dollar in early trade today. Meanwhile, attributing the current economic woes to stimulus provided by the government to tide over the global crisis of 2008, RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan has said it eventually led to an overheated economy, high inflation and uncomfortable fiscal and current account deficits. Addressing investors at an Citibank event in New York, Rajan said economy has slowed to below 5% from an average of 8% between 2002 to 2012, mainly on account of domestic factors. The US unemployment rate fell to a 5-year low of 7% in November, according to the US Labor Department. Payroll figures also showed that 200,000 jobs were created last month, more than expected. With the latest employment data, the Fed is more likely to cut back on its bond purchases. Outgoing Chairman Ben Bernanke has previously said that when the unemployment rate drops below 7%, the US Central Bank would end the $85 billion a month bond buying program known as quantitative easing. This could spook the Asian market, especially the Indian markets, termed as freeloaders on the liquidity party thrown by the US Fed.
That I would be willing to improve upon our unemployment threshold to move it down to 6%. I think that would further reinforce that we're going to be in an accommodative, mode. If that were done at the time when we began to taper, I might expect that financial markets would view this as neutral, and that would be the right case.
Either taper or no taper. There's a lot of different things that they could do in December. They've talked about some of them publicly, that they could reset the thresholds, they could strengthen their forward guidance. They could put a end date or a target dollar amount on quantitative easing. They could even cut the rate on overnight excess reserves. There's a lot of different outcomes for the December meeting.
Unemployment rate is actually lower than where a lot of people forecasted it would be at this time of year. It's been coming down by an average of 1/10 of a point a month for several straight months now. And this past month we also saw the participation rate rise, which is good news. And I think there's a lot of favorable trends in the economy right now.
So local politics appears to have been done and dusted. The focus will shift to the US Federal Reserve and the RBI policy review meetings next week. Meanwhile, stock markets, many believe, is generally indicator of urban wealth. But come again, many will be surprised to know how rural India has promoted the stock markets to a high level this year. Rural India, with an emerging consumer class, has been driving demand from everything from mobile phone to tractors, which has also led to the surge in the stock markets. Tepid growth, soaring inflation and a wobbly currency. India is not exactly popping off the charts near the end of 2013. Yet the benchmark Sensex has touched record highs propelled by companies with big international businesses such as Tata Motors. More locally focused companies such as state-run banks have had a much bleaker run. That might not be fair given the potential of India's vast rural stretches, home to nearly three-quarters of the population. While many associate rural India with poverty, it's actually declining, and consumption of goods such as mobile phones is growing faster than in India's teeming cities. Rural India is also getting a fresh boost this year thanks to heavier than average rainfalls in the monsoon season, which should lift the harvest. One key product gaining traction is tractors. Mahindra & Mahindra, the country's biggest utility vehicle maker, saw tractor sale gain 13% in November and is expected that the segment will grow close to 20% in the current financial year, with auto sales declining. The company's shares have outperformed the Sensex. So though India's economy may have seen better days, it may be time to take a fresh look at India's shares with a countryside connection. Business S, DD News. We're joined by two stock analysts, S. Ghosh and Kunal Saraugi in the studio. Sir, welcome on a day when the markets have literally zoomed. Kunal Saraugi, I'll start with you. I'll start with actually a no-brainer. Today's rally was largely attributed to the election results. How important have the local domestic factors like the elections have become for the markets?
Well, elections have always been important, Sidhant. If you recall, in 2009 when the Lok Sabha election results came out, markets were locked up in an upper circuit freeze. So elections have always been important. From an institutional investor's perspective, if you are a foreign FII looking at India, this election result has sent out a signal that we probably will get a very stable government in 2014. So this has cheered the markets, and that's the reason we see almost 100 points.
Is this a start of a new rally?
Well, I would believe so. I think Nifty has cleared a major resistance on the charts. The weekly, monthly charts, all long-term charts look very positive. So I am quite upbeat. I think there is a fair chance that this rally might go beyond what most people expected to.
Continuing with that question, where do you expect the Nifty and the Sensex ending the year? 23,000, 7,000?
Well, today is the great day for the Indian stock market. So by the today trading, Nifty has been broken the all three major resistance of daily, weekly and monthly chart, and that was make the triple top for couple of months. So the thing is, if Nifty able to trade the level 6357, then I am expecting around 21st December the Nifty will touch 6,800 level.
Kunal, coming back to you, where do you see the markets from which has been touted, the semi-finals, the state elections and the final general elections in May?
Well, I think the mood should be upbeat, but like your report pointed out, there are dark clouds in the horizon, and I think one of them will definitely be what the Fed does. And if there is an announcement of tapering, that might create a shock waves.
Do you expect tapering in this year?
Well, I expect it to happen pretty soon now that the data points there have improved, and I think it will happen. It may not happen in December, it may happen in January, but it is sure to happen. Whenever it happens, I think markets will definitely not like it. Then our own credit policy, which is due to be out this year, I think that again will be a negative. So there will be negatives, there will be volatility. We will not see a one-way rise to any level. I think it's going to be more gradual and it's going to be painful.
Sir, the RBI policy will be coming next week. The Fed meeting is also happening.
Yeah.
Where do you think the rate-sensitive stocks, especially the banking stocks, going after that?
Yeah, I think if after announce the RBI policy, if there is any downside for the market, so according to me, I think that will be the great idea to long in the Nifty stocks, also IT stocks and banking stocks. In the banking stocks, I think Axis Bank will be the great stock for the buy on dips.
Kunal, coming back to you, whenever the markets rise, there is always a note of caution given by the analyst. This time around, do you see irrational exuberance, too much of irrational exuberance on the part of the markets?
Not quite actually. If you look at the market structure, this time in fact it's surprisingly very low key. And despite markets making a new lifetime high, you don't see that euphoria which you traditionally associate with new highs. And we've seen people keeping away from the market. So retail participation is abysmally low. And that I think augurs well, is because if not too many people don't get excited, that's when you get big rallies. So I'm quite hopeful, and that's a positive thing.
How do you see the fundamentals of the market, given the fact that the economy is still not out of the woods?
Well, that's true, and that's always be true, because there will always be worries, and I think it's a good thing that people are worried about the state of the economy. But I think it's a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. We haven't seen too many job layoffs. We have seen demand being restored. Auto sales numbers are positive. So if you look at the fundamentals, I'm quite upbeat on the markets as well as the fundamentals.
The inflation is still high, IIP is still low, and GDP is still, we got a good number, but still below 5%.
See, I think markets always want to look ahead. So most of what you point out, I think it's already in the price. And now I think it's only positives that people are looking at. If I think the air gets cleared next year, we get a good government, we get a stable government, I think a lot of money is waiting on the sidelines to come to the market. If that happens, 7,000 is within reach.
Start of a new rally.
Absolutely.
So coming back to you, so the rupee has been gradually gaining against the US dollar. Today is the fourth day of successive gains. Where do you see the IT stocks performing on the back of this development?
Yeah, IT stock, I think it will be increasing more from this current level, and I am very agree with this Kunal that 7,000 level we may see soon.
So coming back to you, will you suggest the investor to invest right now?
Well, I think now is as good a time as any to put some markets in the to put some money in the markets, but you have to be very, very cautious. You have to know where to put your money, is because there are too many options available. I think one has to be circumspect and try and invest for the long term, and you definitely will get very good returns.
Sir, what's the outlook of the markets? I'll ask you.
The outlook is, I am very bullish of the Indian stock market. Basically in the Nifty stock, IT stock is performing very well. Also the banking stock is performing now. If I am looking my chart, so there is a resistance of Nifty, there is 6550. If 6550 Nifty able to break, then definitely we may see 6,800 and 7,000 level, and I am expecting 6,800 level in end of this year, and after middle of January and around 14th February we may see 7,000 level.
Kunal, let's talk about the global market action. The Fed has always been an important player in the whole global market action. Also, news coming from Europe, Greece has said that it will come out of the recession. How do you see the global markets, the Asian stocks and the European stocks performing on the back of these developments?
Well, I think most emerging markets are doing well. I think there's a big wall of liquidity that's coming into various markets, including India. And as long as the tapering gets postponed further still, I think, and there is a fair chance that that might happen, I think the money will continue to come in, and most emerging markets, I think, will reap dividends of that.
Final question to both of you. Do you expect a correction before a big rally starts?
Well, definitely, nothing goes up vertically, so there will be a correction at some point, and those corrections will be deep and very scary.
After the RBI policy or before the policy?
I think it's going to happen before. It's because markets are overbought at the current level, so you might see a correction, but I won't read too much into those.
So, your reaction on that?
It is okay. I am expecting also a correction, but before the correction I am expecting 6550. Maybe there will be a correction after that level. So it's maybe before RBI policy or after RBI policy.
Gentlemen, thank you for being on the studios, and we hope the rally continues. Time for a short break. Lots more after this small break.
सबों से भी सगा है तू, अपना परिवार है। आज और कल दोनों हमने तेरे साथ देखे हैं। तू चले जब साथ तो खुशी के ठिकाने मिलते हैं।
वन टच पावर स्टार्ट, शानदार माइलेज वाला APDV इंजन, जो दुनिया की नंबर 1 बाइक चुने, यही कहे।
सबों से भी सगा है
हीरो स्प्लेंडर, लगे ऐसा फैमिली जैसा।
क्या कर रहे हो? बदतमीजी मत करो, पड़ोसी देख लेंगे। कल शाम बस स्टॉप पे।
सोचूंगी, कल फोन करना। अरे बंद करो ये पागलपन, बाबूजी देख लेंगे।
बाबूजी देख लेंगे, पड़ोसी देख लेंगे, देखने दो तो कल बस स्टॉप पे।
क्या बहू इतनी देर कर दी?
माँ वो
हम समझते हैं कि रिश्तों के लिए अपना घर होना कितना जरूरी है, इसीलिए बैंक ऑफ इंडिया लाए हैं आसान होम लोन्स। बैंक ऑफ इंडिया, रिश्तों की जमा पूंजी।
My friend lives to sail, to fight, to win.
My son lives a life that's the envy of many.
My husband lives it up when he's off duty.
My friend.
My son.
My husband
is a naval officer. He has an ocean of opportunities.
Indian Navy, an ocean of opportunities. www.navsena-bharati.nic.in.
एक तरफ कोई देश की इज्जत के लिए जान दे रहा है, तो दूसरी तरफ कोई देश की इज्जत को नीलाम कर रहा है। एक तरफ कोई हमारी संस्कृति की परवरिश कर रहा है, तो दूसरी तरफ कोई उस संस्कृति का अपमान कर रहा है। एक तरफ कोई इस देश के नाम पर कालिख लगा रहा है, तो दूसरी तरफ कोई मेहनत और ईमानदारी से उसी नाम को संवार रहा है। आप किस तरफ हैं? देश का सर झुकाने की तरफ या फक्र से उसे उठाने की तरफ? गर्व कीजिए अपने भारतीय होने पर। टेक प्राइड इन बीइंग एन इंडियन।
Welcome back. It's an absolute majority for Congress in Mizoram. Congress has won 27 of the 40 seats in the Mizoram Assembly at 5 p.m. The Congress retained power in Mizoram for the second consecutive time, winning 27 of the 40 seats. Congress leader and Chief Minister Lal Thanhawla was elected to the State Assembly for a record 9th time. He contested from 2 places in central Mizoram and won both the seats. This is for the 5th time that the Congress has come to power in the northeastern state of Mizoram. In the outgoing assembly, the Congress had 32 seats. Thousands of Congress activists celebrated here and across the state as the election results began to pour in. On to some international news. Thai Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra has said that the Thai Parliament will be dissolved and election will be called soon after sustained protest in the capital Bangkok. The move follows the resignation of all opposition MPs from Parliament on Sunday. The protesters allege her government is controlled by ousted leader Thaksin Shinawatra and has vowed to continue the demonstrations. No date has been given for the polls, but Yingluck Shinawatra believes that the elections will be held as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the unrest has an impact of the economy. More in this report.
It's becoming an all too familiar scene in Thailand. Anti-government protests, violence in the streets, and now once again, like 3 years ago, deaths and a continued standoff. The recent violence in the country's capital, Bangkok, took place perilously close to a main tourist area, threatening Thailand's global image just as the peak holiday season begins. Thailand's economy is a major manufacturing base for everyone, from US hard drive makers to Japan's auto giants, is starting to show signs of strain.
I suppose worst case scenario would be change of government, or as you've seen in the past 20 years, even some sort of military takeover. I think the most likely scenario is you have a bit of trouble, and then in the end they can reach an accommodation, everything calms down. I think the real, if you like, more interesting downside risks seem to be very low probability.
Thailand's manufacturing output has contracted for the past 7 months, and the nation's central bank has cut interest rates to prop up the economy. Thailand's stock market is among the region's worst performers this year, in US dollar terms, down more than 5%. The baht was the second worst performing emerging Asia currency in November. Only Indonesia, with its soaring current account deficit, faring worse. The latest conflict continues to pit Bangkok's urban middle class and a royalist elite against the mostly poor and rural supporters of Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra and her brother Thaksin, ousted in a 2006 military coup. Despite the upheaval of the last few years, the economy has sparred ahead, giving the country its Teflon Thailand nickname. But Thailand is certainly looking more vulnerable, and further violence will further test that reputation. Business Desk, DD News.
Time for a short break. After the break, more business news of the day.
आज क्या बात है?
आनंद।
बड़े खुश लग रहे हो।
परम आनंद।
कुछ बताओगे भी?
निर्मल आनंद।
LIC जीवन आनंद, मेजॉरिटी पर सम अश्योर्ड और बोनस, उसके बाद भी जीवन भर इंश्योरेंस का भरोसा।
मिली वो? हम, तुम और वो तो आनंद ही आनंद।
अरे सुन तो।
मुझे क्या सुनाना चाहते हो? जो सुनाओ मेरी सौतन को।
किसको?
अरे वही तुम्हारा मोबाइल फोन जिससे सुबह शाम दिन रात चिपके रहते थे और कहते थे किसान कॉल सेंटर से बातें हो रही हैं।
अच्छा ये बात है।
हाँ क्यों? क्या हुआ? अब बात नहीं होती क्या?
अब तो झट से बात हो जाती है।
ऐसा क्या?
हाँ, अब तो ज्यादा लाइनें और खास तकनीक के कारण खेती के माहिरों से तुरंत बात हो जाती है। और अगर कभी लाइन व्यस्त हो तो अपनी समस्या फोन पर रिकॉर्ड करा दो, वहाँ से फोन आ जाता है और समस्या की हल का मैसेज भी आ जाता है। ये देखो आ गया।
अरे वाह, इसका मतलब इंतजार की घड़ी अब खत्म।
हाँ।
तभी मैं सोचूं कि आजकल मुझ पर इतना प्यार क्यों आ रहा है।
कृषि संबंधी समस्याओं का अपनी भाषा में तुरंत हल पाने के लिए पूरे भारत में किसी भी फोन से हेल्पलाइन नंबर पर संपर्क करें। किसानों का दोस्त किसान कॉल सेंटर।
ये पानी मेरा है। मेरा है नहीं, मेरा है।
तेरा मेरा मत कर सासू, ये पानी तो सबका है। थोड़ा थोड़ा बांट लो इसको, ये पानी तो सबका है। कैसे ये मुश्किल हल होगी, हम सबको ये सोचना है।
पानी बर्बाद नहीं करेंगे,
थोड़ा थोड़ा इस्तेमाल करेंगे।
ऐसे भविष्य से बचने के लिए पानी बर्बाद ना करें और बारिश के पानी का संरक्षण करें।
क्या आप कुछ छुपा तो नहीं रहे? प्रॉपर्टी ट्रांजैक्शन, कैश डिपॉजिट, बिग परचेजेस, परचेज ऑफ शेयर्स, बॉन्ड्स एंड डिबेंचर्स। कुछ छुपाइए नहीं, क्योंकि हम सब जानते हैं। आयकर विभाग के नोटिस का इंतजार मत करिए। भरिए अपना एडवांस टैक्स ईमानदारी से इस महीने की 15 तारीख तक और बनिए भागीदार देश की प्रगति में।
Hi, welcome back. More business news of the day. Greece sees end of recession in 2014 with new budget. Greek lawmakers have passed the 2014 budget, which predicts a return to growth after 6 straight years of painful recession. China's exports rose more than expected in November, adding to signs of a rebound in the world's second largest economy. Shipment rose 12.7% from a year ago, up from 5.6% rise in October. Bharti Airtel today said it will invest over 4,000 crore rupees in Punjab over the next 5 years on expansion of optical fiber network and 4G services. Airtel signed an agreement with the Punjab government on the sidelines of the Progressive Punjab Investors Summit in Mohali. And Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh today visited the South African High Commission in New Delhi and paid rich tributes to the former president of South Africa and Bharat Ratna Nelson Mandela. In his message in the condolence book, Prime Minister referred Mandela as a giant figure among men whose death has devoted us of a great Gandhian figure of our age. And you can catch all the latest news from the world of politics, sports and business at DD News Twitter handle. That's at DD News Live round the clock. Well, that's all in this edition of Business Wrap. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.